When talking about China, we cannot help but talk about great figures like Confucius or Lao Tzu. Infinite works such as Tao Te Ching or Sun Tzu's Art of War not only provided guidance on thinking and strategy, but also shaped the moral and cultural system of Chinese society through many periods, different from Confucianism or Confucian ideas at that time. When ethics and integrity were the measure of character for a successful administrator, Cao Cao, also known as Emperor Wu of Wei, that is, the head of the Wei state, did something completely contrary to the social norms of the time. Everyone has heard of Cao Cao, a famous historical figure during the Three Kingdoms period. Cao is considered one of the talented politicians, but is very cunning. Through his sophisticated strategies, Cao has achieved success in conquering and controlling northeast China and keeping firmly maintained his position throughout his time in power. And now, let's explore with ancient Codex. Once upon a time, since childhood, Cao Cao was considered different from many people, often paying little attention to small things, having a liberal and playful personality, but very fond of reading books, especially books on the art of war. But because Cao lost his mother early and his father, Cao Tung, rarely paid attention to him, he was rarely taught since he was young. It can be said that Cao is a playboy and very promiscuous. Until he was 20 years old, his personality remained unchanged. He was playful and often liked to drink with his friends all night long. Although he loved to play, he never forgot his studies. He passed the Heolium exam and was given a small official position in the Han court at that time. Different from other young men of his time, who often attached great importance to reputation, at that time many people did not consider Cao anything at all. Cao Cao is famous for being playful, and now he is an official. This has made many people hate Cao Cao and think that Cao Cao has no talent. He just has a family member who is an official, so he is favored. This is truly a blessing, humiliation of the Han dynasty. Nothing happened until one day. Cao Cao came to see Qiu Huiyan, a person with supernatural knowledge and very good at observing and evaluating others. After talking to Cao for a long time, Qiu Huiyan was very surprised by Cao Cao's thoughts, then made a comment to Cao. Currently, the world is about to be in chaos. If you are not a talented and economic person, you cannot make the world peaceful. I have met many people in the world, but no one can compare to you. Cao Cao likes to listen to sweet words, so as soon as he finished speaking, he was extremely excited and considered Qiu Huiyan his confidant. Qiu Huiyan advised Cao Cao to meet Hua Tiao, a famous commentator at that time. Anyone who receives comments from Theo will immediately become famous. Cao Cao then went to Hua Tiao's house to ask for a comment, but in the end, Hua Tiao did not accept, even though Cao begged as much as he could. Then, while Hua Tiao went out, Cao used a knife to force Hua Tiao. Hua Tiao was now afraid of turning pale, so he had to let go and say to Cao, "Powerful mandarins, good officials in times of rule, and heroes in times of chaos." After hearing this, Cao laughed loudly and left. In the year 196, the Han dynasty, after nearly 400 years of existence, collapsed. Crisis, war, and severe economic decline caused China to fall into chaos. Cao Cao took this opportunity to create a great career for himself. Through many times of war and chaos, he defeated vassals such as Lu Bo and Vian Thieu one after another to unify the north. At this time, China was divided into three according to the cauldron position. Shuhan was occupied by Liu Bei, Eastern Wu was controlled by Sun Quan, and Cao Wei was led by Cao Cao. Through the story of Cao Cao forcing Hua Tiao above, it is shown that from a young age he was a person who emphasized pragmatism. For one's own purpose, regardless of morality and ethics, as long as the goal is achieved, there is nothing that one does not dare to do. In the year 192, Cao Cao was promoted to the position of governor of Duyan Prefecture. At this time, Cao Cao became the warlord ruling Duyan Chao with a powerful army. One day, Cao Cao's father, Cao Tung, went from Luoyang to Langya to take care of his retirement. At this time, the convoy carried more than 100 luggage containing much gold, silver, and jewels. Cao Tung passed through Tu Chao and was escorted by Dao Qian to win Cao Cao's favor. When the group arrived at a deserted place, his subordinates became greedy, so they robbed all their possessions and fled to Huainam. When Cao heard that his father was murdered, he immediately sent someone to find Dao Qian to figure out what happened. When Dao Qian heard the news, he was afraid that Cao would take his life, so he ran away. Seeing this, Cao used the excuse that Dao Qian had conspired to harm Cao's father, so he ordered the mobilization of tens of thousands of troops to directly attack Tu Chao and take revenge. When Cao Cao became Duyan Chao Muk, he had several 100,000 troops in hand, but with the ambition to unify all of China at that time, Duyan Chao Muk was only a small position with limited resources that could not be compared to Vian Chao, Theo, or Tonggo at this time. Cao understood that unifying China was a major event. It was difficult to avoid fighting with contemporaneous powers, so it would require a lot of resources. Many thinkers have said that, after hearing the news of his father's death, Cao Cao was probably less sad, but more happy. Because Cao Cao had great ambitions, territorial expansion was a must, and Tu Chao was the first goal in his plan to unify the world. The thing is, during the time he was the boss in Duyan Chao, everything was too peaceful. There was no reason to take over the city. So after hearing the news that his father was murdered, Cao was happy in his heart and used that as a reason to launch military action, but took over Tu Chao and expanded his own power. In this story, there are many absurdities. How could an ordinary person like Dao Qian's subordinate dare to kill Cao's father just in exchange for some gold and silver? Could it be that it was Cao who arranged his father's murder as an excuse to incite the military? And if that is true, then Cao Cao's ambition truly cannot be underestimated. Cao's ambition was most clearly shown through the capture of Tu Chao. Cao's army now attacked many people, belonging to the 5 citadels of Thulu, Tuilang, Hakao, Pengthan, and Fo Duong, as well as neighboring towns. More than 100,000 people died under the Cao army's raid. This caused chaos during that period, making anyone who heard about the Cao invaders extremely terrified. So why did Cao Cao cruelly kill so many innocent people when he could have taken Tu Chao more gently? Arguing that Cao Cao was so cruel to innocent people because after taking over the city, the hearts of the people in the city would not be submissive and many internal conflicts would occur, especially among insiders, so which made ruling Suzhou difficult for a long time. Cao chose this brutal method to make the people afraid and not dare to rebel, thereby making it easier to manage and expand the lands he later occupied. Some other arguments suggest that Cao was a visionary. After occupying Tu Chao, his reputation would spread far and wide. Sometimes Cao himself would be the focal point that made other vassals want to join forces to destroy him. So Cao chose a more cruel way, using the act of killing innocent people as a strong psychological blow to the vassals at the same time. Because of that, in many later wars, Cao Cao had psychological benefits before going into battle, causing many soldiers to panic as soon as they heard his name before fighting. Although Cao Cao is dictatorial and somewhat brutal in his governance, that is not a measure of Cao Cao's dignity. This is most clearly shown in the way he knows how to appreciate and win over his talents, a far cry from many administrators of that period, when eunuchs were dominating society for many generations. Usually, official positions only give priority to aristocratic lineages that are passed down from generation to generation. Cao Cao saw this as a disease of brain drain and extremely embarrassing for a country when most of the country's talents were not respected, but only priority was given to royal bloodlines. This in the long run is like a cancer that is eating away at the nation's culture, causing many consequences for the country's future development. This is probably the thing that Cao Man Duc worried about the most during his military career. Because of this, many of Cao's strategies to favor talented people and calm the people were strongly promoted and put into practice. Wei Kingdom became a powerful land later. After the great battle and victory at Guangdou with Yuan Shao. At this time, there was a writer at the end of the Eastern Han dynasty named Tran Lam, who wrote a famous essay called Vien Tio Hesh Du Chao Van. Under Tran Lam's strong writing power and liberal style, the above essay became one of the most famous epic poems at that time, and was also highly praised by posterity. What is worth mentioning is that the famous essay written by Tran Lam is actually an indictment denouncing the crimes and scandals that Cao Cao committed during his lifetime, even bringing down all 3 generations. The ancestors of the Cao family came out to scold them. When talking about crap, anyone who hears it is afraid, but for a mediocre writer like Tran Lam to dare to point his nose at Cao Cao and write scolding articles, it is truly eating tiger liver. The content of the text is described as follows. In the position of the 3 dukes, he commits acts of theft, dirtying the nation, causing suffering to the people, harming both the living and the dead. Political affairs are disastrous. There are many laws laid out. It is like finding traps that fill the whole valley. Raised his hand and got caught in the net, touched his foot and tripped over the trap. That's why in Duyan, there were people who were sad, and the capital had many complaints. Looking at all the history books from past and present, those who have been immoral, greedy, and cruel are only like Cao Cao. Not stopping there, the indictment also pointed straight to the face, directly naming 3 generations of Cao Cao's family with words that were not good at all. His grandfather was Trung Tuong, his name was Dang. Along with the left mandarins, he was greedy and corrupt and harmed the people. His father was Cao Tung, adopted son of Cao Dang. Thanks to bribery, he got a position in a golden car. Jade surrendered the power, stole the high throne, and toppled great power. During the Cao dynasty, the remaining race of eunuchs, who were not virtuous, cunning, and cruel, liked to cause chaos, were happy when you see disaster. At that time, Cao Cao was suffering from a headache and was bedridden and could not get up. After reading Tran Lam's essay, he sat up and praised it for its good writing, then immediately ordered someone to arrest Tran Lam and bring him home. After capturing Tran Lam, he questioned the writer Tran. That year you dared to write an essay to scold me, but why do you have to scold my ancestors of 3 generations? At that time, the writer surnamed Tran also sincerely apologized and said, "The arrow is on the bow, you can't help but shoot." It was also those words that made Cao Cao admire Tran Lam's talent and spare him his death. At the same time, he also respected him and made him a major official under his command. Thou understands that the power of the pen is sometimes greater than thousands of soldiers and swords. So after reading this article, Tao immediately recognized Tran Lam's talent and appreciated his language ability and sharp thinking by this writer. Although Tran Lam was an enemy on the opposing side and was also the one who scolded Cao so harshly, Tao loved Lam's talent that Cao ignored. The admission of Tran Lam made the whole people understand that although Cao Cao was a domineering person, he was also a wise ruler who knew how to see people and was good at using people. Regardless of background, as long as you have ability, you will be respected. At the beginning of the year 200, Cao Cao led his army down to attack Tuchao. Liu Bei, knowing that he was weak, sent someone to ask for help from Yuan Shao, but Tio was indecisive, so he hesitated to attack. Cao Cao rushed to attack Shuzhou. Several thousand of Liu Bei's troops could not resist and fled in defeat. At this time, in a panic, Liu Bei and Truong Fai had to run away. Liu Bei's family members were also captured that day. Only Guan Yu saw the same path, so he had to surrender to the Cao invaders to save his life for Liu Bei's 2 wives. But he also made a condition with Cao Cao. This condition is called the 3-chapter agreement, or 3 things. Firstly, once he knows Liu Bei's news, even at the end of the world, Quan Vu will immediately leave. Second, Guan Yu refers to the king of Han, not Cao Cao. Third, make sure the 2 ladies are safe. Cao Cao is famous for being a manipulative devil, but he has long admired Guan Yu, so the conditions given by Guan Yu were accepted by Cao Cao in the hope of winning over Guan Yu. In the novel China's 3 Kingdoms, writer Le Quan Trung describes Guan Yu's heroic temperament as follows. I am 9 meters tall, my beard is 2 meters long, my face is as red as gak, phoenix eyes and silk eyebrows. He was a tiger general at the same time as Cao Cao. During his lifetime, he was called Vothan. His achievements were considered unprecedented, such as beheading people, destroying civil servants, and single-handedly overcoming 5 stages and beheading 6 generals. While Guan Yu surrendered and followed him back to live in Huasuang, Cao Cao treated him very well and appointed him the Marquis of Hantou Din, which was a very large general position during the period. There, a few days later, he gave more gold, silver, and jewels, and many beautiful women to serve wine to the Mandarin. But in return, Quan Vu refused. One day, Cao deliberately arranged a banquet for Guan Yu to get Guan Yu drunk, and then arranged for Liu Bei to live in the same room with Liu Bei's 2 wives, the purpose of which was to make him wrong with Liu Bei, but can no longer return to the Liu family. But when the 2 ladies went to bed, Quan Vu stood outside with a knife and guarded the whole night until morning. Cao Cao heard that and admired him very much. This is considered an example of integrity for future generations to follow. The image of Guan Yu guarding the gate is not just a legend, but also as a guideline that many Chinese businessmen cast into statues to worship. Later, knowing that Liu Bei was still alive, Guan Yu immediately returned all of Cao's gifts and wrote a farewell letter. When Cao Cao heard the news of Vu's departure, he felt sad and immediately chased after him to say goodbye. At this time, Cao took the horse and gave it to Quan Vu, and even bent down to tie his shoes as a final farewell. But this is also said to be Cao Cao's two-faced part. The good part is giving tribute to Guan Yu, but it is meant to test Guan Yu's heart to see if he can maintain integrity or not. Partly let Vu go freely but did not issue a passport. When Guan Yu was banned from entering the citadel, he was forced to fight with Cao's fierce generals. From here, there is also the story of Quan Vu alone going through 5 stages to kill 6 generals to find Liu Bei, which became famous throughout the world. Hearing that Guan Yu had beheaded 6 of his generals, Cao Cao was not angry, but also gave Guan Yu an express passport and forbade further pursuit. This story shows how Cao Cao admired Guan Yu's talent and virtue. What Emperor Wei admired Guan Yu was not his strength or talent, but his noble spirit. That's why, after Guan Yu slashed 6 of Cao's good generals, Cao still laughed and ignored them, not sending his troops to pursue. Basic, that is not at all similar to Cao Cao's cruel personality. Cao Cao especially valued talented and righteous soldiers, but it took someone as virtuous as Quan Vu and talented as Tran Lam to achieve such an exceptional outcome. Remember the story of Liu Bo. He was also a good, talented, and outstanding general, also a traitor to the Cao enemy, even surrendered with an obedient attitude of bowing his head, but in the end, he was still killed by Cao Cao and shamed in front of the 3 armies for his injustice. Mine. People often call him cunning, but are those harsh words for him? In terms of thinking and methods at that time, he clearly went far beyond the thinking of many politicians at that time. Outstanding is his pragmatism. Cao Cao did not care about morality or the comments that people gave him, but only emphasized the effectiveness of his goals. Policies to comfort the people, promote agriculture, and favor talented people are all typical examples of his talent and management vision. In this way, he created a powerful and diverse force that helped him achieve great successes in expanding the territory and maintaining power for the puppet state later. Not only was Cao Cao an excellent strategist, he was also a wise man during his time in power. When he lost a battle, Cao Cao often took full responsibility for himself. When he won, he ceded the credit to his subordinates. He treated everyone fairly, regardless of whether they were from the same clan or officials from different clans, receiving rewards and punishments. Clear. These things were like Cao Cao's different management art at that time, but also a manifestation of his sincerity. Cao Cao's subordinates, from strategists to martial generals, all volunteered to serve selflessly. In addition to having good timing and strategic talent, it is important that Cao Wei has outstanding talented people who are loyal, which is the main reason that helped Cao Wei become a strong land that Dongwu or Shu Han also had. Must be careful.